has overtaken me. Had to throw my dice and cards away. So hard luck has overtaken me. Had to throw my dice and cards away. Yes, I've got to try to get me a job on that WPA. I'm gonna get me a job on a WPA.
In 1935, FDR established by executive order the Works Progress Administration, or WPA. When FDR was sworn in as the 32nd President of the United States, at a time when 24.9% of Americans were unemployed, FDR said,
"Our greatest primary task is to put people to work. This is no unsolvable problem if we face it wisely and courageously. It can be accomplished in part by direct recruiting by the government itself, treating the task as we would treat the emergency of a war, but at the same time, through this employment, accomplishing greatly needed projects to stimulate and reorganize the use of our great natural resources."
By 1935, the unemployment rate had fallen to 20.1%, but the nation had a long way to go in getting people back to work. In establishing the WPA, FDR set a goal to provide one paid job for all families where the breadwinner had suffered long-term unemployment. FDR said, "Continued dependence on relief induces a spiritual and moral disintegration fundamentally destructive to the national fiber. To dole out relief in this way is to administer a narcotic, a subtle destroyer of human spirit. It is in violation of the traditions of America." The Works Progress Administration was the largest and most ambitious New Deal agency created. By the time it was dissolved in 1943, it had created 8 million jobs. Harry Hopkins, a former social worker, was chosen by the president to administer the WPA. With a budget of $5 million, Harry set about putting together needed work projects in cooperation with local and state government. The idea was to provide jobs that would not compete with private enterprise. Initially, the focus was on the crumbling infrastructure in the United States. These were not make-work projects. They were jobs that would fulfill great needs nationwide. Harry Hopkins said,
3.5 million men and women in America are being taken from the relief rolls and put to work. Not a single project has been approved or disapproved or pushed forward for any partisan or political reason. We are building thousands of schools and farm-to-market roads in rural areas of America. We are building city streets, playgrounds, parks, sewers in the great cities of America for the thousands unemployed in those cities. The unemployed want to work. They are not chiselers. They are doing useful work.
In every state in the country, there was a WPA project happening. The work the agency provided was not limited to construction. The WPA provided jobs for all areas of employment: writers, musicians, composers, librarians who rode horseback to rural areas where residents had no access to books. People were hired to do oral histories. Some worked on travel books. Artists produced murals that were put in buildings nationwide, or designed posters for all types of public service messages. The WPA employed theater people, including actors, directors, playwrights, costume designers, and stagehands. Musicians were hired to put on free concerts for the public. The WPA enabled children to be taught about the arts by professional musicians and artists. The benefits were endless, but so were the criticisms. Some members of Congress said the government was spending too much and the economy would sort itself out in the long run. Harry Hopkins responded that people eat every day, not in the long run. Hunger is not debatable, he said. Members of the public would say that WPA workers spent their time leaning on shovels. Eleanor Roosevelt wrote many My Day columns praising the work of the agency. In 1938, she wrote, "There are things being done on WPA which are going to be of lasting value historically. The Slave Chronicles Project preserved for posterity the stories of the horrors that people of color endured in this nation. Through the work of the WPA, Native and folk music was preserved." The theater project in particular came under great criticism. Eleanor Roosevelt wrote, "I do not see any good argument against giving opportunity for employment to people who have a definite skill and who cannot find work in the kind of work they are able to do." The theater part of the WPA was defunded first. Eventually, Congress eliminated all funding for the agency, arguing that it was under communist influence. Eleanor Roosevelt wrote of the decision, "I am reminded daily of the statements which I have heard when the WPA was cut off by Congress. They said, if people have to, they will find jobs, or it will be cheaper to support people on straight relief than on WPA." In that column, she highlighted some letters written to her by people who lost their jobs as a result of the defunding. One person wrote, "How can men who have enacted this legislation go home and face their wives and children when they have decreed starvation for other men's lives and children? They have said they were legislating against communist activities in WPA. Such crass stupidity is beyond belief. They have made 10 potential communists for everyone now existing." Eleanor Roosevelt ended the column with, "This isn't an academic discussion. This is actually what happens to human beings. Mr. Legislators, what are your answers?"
So hard luck has overtaken me. Had to throw my dice and cards away. So hard luck has overtaken me. Had to throw my dice and cards away. Yes, I've got to try to get me a job on that WPA.